Hmm. Uh, huh?
You're listening to Cryptid Clues, featuring your hosts, Taylor Field and Reuben Olson.
Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and people folk. It's time for another episode of Cryptid Clues. I believe my buddy Taylor here is going to lead us off with some quick little tips and links for you to check out, and then we'll be right on topic to something cool. Dancing on Bridges with the Goatman.
Some tips. I don't know if I have any tips. Look both ways before crossing the road.
The bridge?
Look both ways before crossing the bridge. Look under the bridge, too. Be sure to check us out, CryptidClues.ca. Cryptid Clues on social media as well. Twitter, Facebook, and then you can also check us out on Patreon, where you can get these episodes early and they are ad-free, which is just fantastic. Again, we're in the process of tweaking our tiers a little bit. I've made a change where the Encounters episodes that we put out, those are available early and ad-free, but for the next tier up from the basic tier on the Patreon. So the Patrons in the first tier get all the regular episodes, basic, ad-free. But these next episodes, the Encounters ones, are basically like a little bit of buffer. We're just trying to make it a little bit more
fair for the higher tiers, especially considering we have a top tier Patreon subscriber right now, which is super cool. And going from there, I would also like to mention that if you're not listening to us in the car, but you're at home just kind of kicking back and relaxing, go check out our website and look at the blog posts that we publish alongside the episodes, because you can maybe see some little pictures while we talk, or view some little notes that we've also put up on the site as well about our current topic. Super cool to do that. Anyways, leading us off now, Taylor, what is the Goatman?
Well, from my research, the Goatman is by many names, which we'll get into, but it is commonly a cryptid that is associated with Louisiana, Maryland, Texas. Now, this thing is described as being about 7 feet tall, and it's always explained as being a hybrid. It's not so much being a straight-up goat, just standing on its back hooves, but it's something that is bearing the resemblance of man and goat. Something
like a little tiny Danny DeVito.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. You keep saying the Danny DeVito. I'm like, what is he referring to by that?
I've watched Hercules.
Oh, now I get it. Okay.
How have you failed me?
It was going over my head. I'm like, if you played a penguin, though, in the Batman movie, I don't see the resemblance.
That's a whole other cryptid.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, he hybrid creature, part man, part goat, commonly claimed to have a human face and a body covered in hair, with the lower half that resembles that of a goat. So, similar cryptids to this that are referenced as the Goatman are as follows: the Poplick monster.
Wait, what?
What's that?
Say that one again.
Are as follows.
No. What was the name of the monster?
The Poplick monster.
What did he do? What happened?
I think that is actually based off the name of the location.
Oh.
Yeah, no actual religious relevance in that front at all.
Except for the Pope that licked something in that location, which is why it's named Poplick.
Is that actually it? I don't actually know.
Well, I don't know either. I'm just taking a guess.
I mean, these places get their names based on events or things that happen. If the Pope happened to be there, and maybe it was like one of those scenarios where like you're dared to like lick like an ice pole and your tongue gets stuck, maybe that's what happened. I don't know.
The Goatman saw that. He wasn't very happy.
Yeah.
That's my pole, Pope. See how you like it.
That was a cryptid from Kentucky. There's the Lake Worth monster from Texas. And then we have the Waterford Sheepman from Pennsylvania.
Ooh, that's a creepy one. I saw that while I was doing my research.
You know that one, okay.
The Sheepman just looks... Ugh. I hate that.
Yeah.
It's like a big zombie lamb chop kind of deal.
We got the Maryland Goatman from Beltsville, Maryland. I think that's one of the more popular ones that people are kind of familiar with. The Proctor Valley Monster from California. Proctor Valley Monster is very intriguing. And then the Alton Bridge Goatman from Texas.
Which, if you've watched anything on YouTube, we have some ghost hunters that have a very, very popular episode about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Now, with these terms, have you heard all of these different variations, or which ones are you most familiar with?
The sheepman I encountered while I was doing my research just the other night, but I've been familiar with the goatman for a long time, actually because of that YouTube video where the two guys are out on the bridge trying to stir up some trouble. And I have also heard of the Pope Lick monster before, but I did not realize that was goatman. I've just heard of the term. So maybe let's start with that. Tell me a little bit about the Pope Lick monster.
So, part man, part goat, part sheep. Now, it's reportedly living beneath a railroad trestle, which is basically over Floyd's Fork Creek, I believe is what it's called. And this is basically just in the area of Louisville, Kentucky. So, in the reports of this, the creature appears as a human-goat hybrid with a deformed body of a man. So it's got basically the covered in fur goat legs, prominent postured nose, wide set of eyes, horns protruding from its forehead, and it has long hair that's attached and resembles the hair on its legs. I guess this long hair resembles the hair of like a goat. So I don't have much on the encounters or reportings of that, just mostly on its description. And I just found that to be very interesting, how, notably the horns.
I did find that for the Pope Lick monster too, since it's on like the big railroad type area, it lures people onto the tracks apparently, and then after they're halfway across the bridge, they have no choice but to either jump off or get hit by a train. And
Really?
the bridge is on a huge like cliff too, so it's quite a big jump. They would die from the fall.
It's interesting as well that this thing is associated with something such as a railway. If you look back at an Encounters episode that we did, the Dogman of Bailey Creek, our guest on that show, she goes into detail a little bit about other cryptids in the area and how there's a railway area that kind of has like footprints and just some unexplained things kind of unfold around there. It just seems like that's something kind of like Dogman to cars. It's just cryptids and railways. There's something there, at least in my observation.
What about the next goatman here? What's the Lake Worth monster?
The Lake Worth monster, yeah. So again, reported half man, half goat, with fur and with scales.
Ooh,
Now,
scales on this one.
That I thought was really, really odd. Like something like a lizard almost. Is scales like fish scales? Like on what degree? I don't actually know.
It's a big old chimera.
Yeah. So this obviously, as per its name, believed to reside in Lake Worth.
In the water.
Yeah, to a degree, I guess.
Ooh, can you imagine like a big goat man coming in with the water, just rising up from the depths at night with like algae and stuff dangling off its horns?
Oh, it'd be very spooky. This is something that there's a lot of researchers that have looked into this and don't believe that it is a real thing. There are some that stand by the fact that this is real, and I think that I pulled up some footage. It was like thermal photo, and it was from a researcher fella that just straight up believed it was the Lake Worth monster. But it's not something that is. You could probably find something clear of like a Bigfoot, thermal speaking and whatnot. But basically, the encounters of this cryptid included landing actually on a man's car out of a tree.
Ooh.
That just blew me away. That would be very, very
footprints
surreal.
on the car would suck.
Yeah. Another encounter actually have reports of it throwing a vehicle tire at a group of individuals. But I will say that was confirmed to be a hoax. I know it was a hoax, I just wanted to still put that out there and confirm it because maybe people that heard that story didn't know it was a hoax or whatnot. But a man came forward and confirmed that. This is actually one of the goatmen that has been known to have a lot of hoaxers. A lot of people have confessed to dressing up and going out into the woods.
That's very bad.
It's very upsetting because it hits disbelievers. It hits investigators. It's all around not a good thing.
And especially something creepy like that. I mean, around Halloween, I bet there's a lot of people that dress up in that area.
Oh, absolutely.
But speaking of creepy ones, we have the Waterford Sheepman. That's the one that really terrifies me. I saw the pictures of that, and I almost didn't want to read into it because that was nightmare fuel.
Yeah. That was probably the image you sent me, was it not?
Yeah, I can send you a picture.
Yeah. So, again, this thing terrorizing the rural town of Waterford, Pennsylvania in the 1970s.
The Sheepman, yeah. Okay.
Reported to reside in a cave on Baghdad Road. Now, I don't know this road. I've never been there, but
That's where a dad was bagged once. Like, he was walking down the road and the sheep man popped out with a big sack.
That's how these places get their names. So it frequents the covered bridge southeast of town, hides up in the rafters, waiting to jump down on motorists that stop on the bridge.
Ooh, like on or under?
On. So it's a covered bridge. Basically, you go through
okay.
and it hides in the rafters up above.
Yuck.
Which, I mean,
How
that's
does it
just
get up there if it's got
terrifying.
hooves?
It could probably jump. I mean, in most depictions of, I'll say fawns and such, their jumping capabilities are pretty, I don't want to say exaggerated, but pretty intense, at least in movies and books and that
So
sort
they
of
had
thing.
to train Hercules somehow.
Well, there you go. So, reportedly stands on its two hind legs, human-like body covered in hair, but it has a goat sheep-like head. So this is different from the previous Goatman, where it's kind of more and the same as a fawn, head of a man, lower half of a goat, horns still on its head. This thing is straight up head of this creature, head of a goat, head of a sheep.
Actually, you know how easy that would be to hoax too? You could have like the old classic horror movie type villain where they're wearing like a big pig head or something on them. Anyone could just take like a sheep or a goat head and just slap it on and then go troll a railway or something.
Well, that's true. You have a lot of cases where there are individuals that buy those horse masks as jokes and stuff. You see them on like YouTube videos and everything. You could buy a goat one.
I'm thinking like a little bit more messed up though, like something to start these, not in a sense to like prove them a hoax, but like, hey, it's possible that some of these don't exist and maybe they started because somebody went out there and severed like a head or something like that and then wore it.
Yeah. That's more along the lines of the Saw franchise where they actually wear pig heads.
I'm
as
thinking
masks.
that, but like with sheep and goats.
With sheep and goats, yeah. Again, we're not trying to we're not solving the case of the Goatman and debunking it. We're just sharing our thoughts here, of course. We don't want to be downers to anyone that definitely believes in these as well.
Sorry, Goatman, if you're listening to this, I hope you're not too disheartened here.
Yeah, no.
Probably sitting back just listening to the podcast like, oh, they're talking about me.
Yeah.
And then we say that and he's just like, oh,
crushed.
I'm not really. Starts to fade away, Back to the Future style. No.
This now the Waterford Sheepman, this cryptid specifically, I did find accounts of specifically younger people kind of pulling in, and back in the 70s there wasn't like Netflix and chill. If you're with your date,
go get abducted by the sheep man.
Well, exactly. You had your date. You go up to like a lookout point. You go hang out somewhere, and you're playing music, just chilling, have a good time in your car. In
And all
this
of a sudden
case,
you're like, oh, honey, wow, this blanket's really warm. Is this wool?
yeah, it's goat fur actually. It's well. In this case, from the encounters that I was looking into, a lot of these tales were described as young people pulling in up under the bridge, just enjoying themselves, and then this thing would actually drop down and just start attacking them. There was one specific encounter where there was a group of people in this vehicle, and I believe they had a malfunctioned tire, something wrong with the car, so they had to get out, basically remedy the situation, which they could. It was an easy fix, remedy it, and this thing jumped down and started attacking them. And when they got the car up and running, they all got into the vehicle. There were scratch marks all over the top of this vehicle. They got home, but it was dismissed. Their parents didn't want anyone to think that they were crazy or anything along those lines, and they dismissed it. It was never properly filed or dealt with, and I think that's very interesting. And what else are you going to do? If it is the 70s, you don't want to be labeled as something that is, my family saw a Goatman, because back then labels were very, very strong. And
It's safer to claim it was a Bigfoot.
Well, I mean, probably. If you start going off, and we'll get to this later in the episode, going off about Goatman, people are going to think there's some religious aspect, like, okay, your family is cursed, your family is practicing something dark. And back then, that's one of the heaviest kind of rumors that would spread. People would get paranoid of that kind of thing. That's something that we talk about in the which episode was that? The
Chupacabra?
New Jersey Devil. We talked about that in one of the other episodes. How the family.
Chupacabra.
What's that?
We got to do a chupacabra at some point.
We do have to do a chupacabra. The New Jersey Devil episode that we did, go check that out. We discussed about how the family was kind of looked at as being attached to that demonic aspect. But
yeah, I was trying to remember it, and then I thought we did chupacabra, and then I realized I was remembering New Jersey Devil, but I just called it chupacabra. I'm like, ooh, right in my heart. Oh no.
We're definitely gonna get to chupacabra. That's definitely on the list. So, yeah, do you have anything else you want to add on the Waterford Sheepman, or you want to keep scrolling down the list here?
No, let's go on. Proctor Valley Monster is really weird looking. What's that one about?
Yes. So reported to be 7 feet tall. Now, it's supposed to resemble more like a deranged cow. If you can kind of think more like a bull with its horns and such, but still the general kind of
Like up on
physique
2
of a
feet
goat.
kind of thing?
Yeah, up on 2 feet and such. So it's interesting because this one is actually a cryptid that has some evidence to support its existence. I guess support the existence of Goatman in general, including a footprint. So again, this is something that's described as being very humanoid, somewhat similar to that of a Bigfoot, or again, like I said earlier, more of a cow, but it's with all the body parts in the wrong places. That's something that was very interesting to note. A lot of the livestock mutilations are blamed on this cryptid. Now, the museum, the Bonita Museum in Chula Vista, this is a city in California, Chula Vista, it apparently has a casting of an alleged footprint said to be from this cryptid. Again, you have local park rangers and investigators that have yet to confirm any sightings, but that doesn't dismiss the fact that there are campers, there are local residents, and there was a sheriff's deputy that have claimed to have seen either this cryptid or large hairy entities in the area. There was one account that actually reports this creature was accompanied by 2 smaller critters. Now that, I don't know what the critters were, and I tried looking more into that. I just found that fascinating, exactly.
The 2 smaller critters would be really weird. Is it like 2 little Goatmen or something? Or 2 smaller cows? Or something else?
Yeah, so Reuben just popped up the footprint. Again, we're going to put that into the blog as this episode drops on the main feed.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think of that footprint? I'm curious of your thoughts.
I would say that out of all the footprints I've seen castings of, this is by far the worst. This is a very weird looking footprint. Now, if it is a real casting here, which, I mean, this guy's holding it up pretty seriously, I don't want to doubt him, that's a very strange impression in a really weird shape. So that's a very messed up looking animal if that's the case.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely far from a Bigfoot. I mean, size-wise, it's close, but everything's in the wrong place.
Bigfoot has the popularity. And speaking of popularity, let's get to the main Goatman here. The Maryland Goatman. That's the big one. You want to tell me about that one, Taylor?
So, according to legend, this Goatman has been seen wielding axes.
Ooh.
Now, that's something that freaks me out. Yeah, this thing's charging at you.
That's something out of a horror movie.
Yeah, 100%. So again, reported as a half-man, half-animal creature. Now, the tale with this is interesting. And again, I am skeptical, but a part of me, and I only say this because as of late, I've found certain kind of topics and things which kind of really opened my eyes on the whole basis of genetics, mutations, stuff like that. And looking into this claim, it kind of makes me feel that I'm kind of on the more I'm believing it kind of side.
Really?
And maybe I'm probably very much one of the only few I feel like that would, but that being said, the tale that is involved with this creature is it is someone who once was a scientist that worked at the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center. And I have a photo of that center that'll be in the blog. This tale explains that he was essentially experimenting on goats. One experiment went completely sideways, and he turned insane. He went crazy. He started attacking cars with an axe, and now he roams the back roads of Beltsville, Maryland.
No, I don't think he would have performed some scientific experiment and turned into a goat man. Maybe he got crazy, did something, went nuts and ripped off a goat's head and wore it. I'd be more likely to believe that. Or if there was some kind of physical change, if this case was real, then I would imagine he did something like a satanic ritual or something that maybe cursed him. But I don't, I'll put it out there, I don't think that a scientist was mixing some vials and it went poof and suddenly he was now the goat man.
Yeah, the only that I totally will stand by, your perspective on that. I think this is something where it gets really interesting, where everyone can come together and okay, bring your own perspective to this
because show and tell.
Show and tell, yeah. It's such a weird
my daddy
route.
says the Goatman is satanic. Well, my daddy says the Goatman mixed some vials.
Well, I mean, that's just it. Like, this is, out of the other Goatmen that we just covered, this is the first one that actually has a very different, one of us changed kind of scenario. And again, I kind of back the fact that I believe that it could be something along the lines where he was doing something he shouldn't have. It could have been some government lab. It went sideways, and now he screwed up parts of his body. And I say that because you look and you have that kind of idea represented in movies. And I say that again, like, look at the lizard from Spider-Man. And again, you have a lot of movies. Where do they pull this kind of material from? Again, comic books, sure, whatnot. But I just think it's fascinating how that is a form of media that's represented on,
It's very movie-like or TV show-like or something. Yeah. And you know what else is very TV show-like? Commercial breaks. I think it's time we get to an ad, eh?
Yeah, let's do it. We'll be right back. And we're back. Thank you. I was getting too rowdy into my perspective there. So, yeah, this thing, there was another tale that was associated with this where it was just an old hermit that lived out there and would wander around, and people kind of just referred to him as the Goatman. He'd tend to goats and stuff. But the idea...
I read that one.
You read that one?
Yeah,
okay.
I did read that one.
Mm-hmm. The idea that someone could have done this to themselves is just crazy, that they're out there with an axe.
It was that tale that you just brought up, the guy that was tending to the goats. Some teenagers killed his goats or something like that, and he was very angry and upset, and he performed some kind of a ritual, and it ended up cursing him, and that's why he particularly reaches out and attacks teenagers more often than not than like adults or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got it. Yeah. Again, it's hard to know where these stories really originate. This stuff is pure campfire, like, fuel.
Oh, it is. It's it kind of gives me this vibe that somebody just comes up with it to try to scare people away, like over at the bridge with like Sheepman or something like that. You'd have like a father who goes, "Oh, I don't want this boy dating my daughter and taking her down to the bridge where all the teenagers make out." So he dresses up one day, he scares away some teenagers, and he creates this local legend to scare his daughter from ever going there.
Absolutely, 100%.
That would actually be a really good movie. Like,
that would be a good movie.
He tries to keep making this impression, and eventually he accidentally does kill a teenager, and it turns into this big thing.
Yeah.
What a great movie that would be.
We're slapping the Cryptid Clues rights on that. We're gonna go get this movie. Is there anything else you wanted to add on to this?
I don't think so, but there's still a Goatman we haven't covered yet, and that's the one that I brought up with the bridge and
the Alton Bridge Goatman.
Yeah, that one. It's the YouTube one.
Yes. So this is a Goatman and a bridge that is said to be haunted by half man, half goat cryptid. So now looking into this backstory, I feel 100% that this bridge has a lot of paranormal aspect to it. From my research, I found it to be actually quite saddening. If this is the original authentic tale of what happened, I found it actually to be really, really sad. But so the story and the backstory behind this is there was a black man that worked as a goat farmer. So it was said that he moved his family to reside just north of Alton Bridge. Years later, again, he became known as a very reliable, honest businessman. He was actually labeled as the Goatman by the locals.
Ooh, the legend begins.
That exactly. His success also attracted unwanted attention, and in 1938, he was murdered by Klansmen in the local government, which just, I hated reading that part. That just broke my heart. When he was murdered and hung on the bridge, his body had disappeared. I found that to be really, really, really interesting, because that was right when they threw the noose over and they reported, okay, his body vanished. But it terrified the Klansmen, so they actually went back to his house and murdered his family. Again, it's just even more horrible. And I'm hoping this is not a real story. I'm really hoping it's not.
That just sounds like something that would happen back then, though, too.
Yeah, and even the mention of, like, this account being Klansmen in the local government, it's horrible. It's just really, really just a horrible story. So the locals report that if you cross this bridge with no headlights on, like the Klansmen had done, the Goatman will appear on the other side waiting for you. There's been strange lights that have been seen in the woods surrounding the bridge. There have been rocks that have been reportedly thrown at passerbys. And people have also reported being touched and grabbed.
That almost sounds really squatchy too.
Well, it does. The rock throwing, 100%. That's pulled right out of a Sasquatch, scenario.
Even
for the
just
most
getting
part.
strange lights in the woods and orbs and stuff like that is very paranormal and is something that's commonly associated with a lot of cryptids like that.
Yeah, there are a lot of paranormal scenarios with bridges. Again, this is like the thing we kind of talked about earlier. Dogman cars, cryptids, railroads, and bridges and paranormal. They just kind of go hand in hand. I've seen so many.
Well, it's like
encounters
openings
on it.
too, because where often are these bridges and stuff located out in the woods, and
Yeah.
it's a gap. So if something, even a deer or a bear, wants to cross and get to the other side, they have to pass by a very open area that makes them visible. So if there's anywhere people are going to see it, the only place they travel through that territory, where that opening is, that's where something's going to jump out at you.
Yeah,
Whether it means to jump out at you or just cross.
absolutely. The lights, I think that's a very interesting thing. A lot of people report seeing the lights out in the woods, and you don't want to follow the lights. But
Ooh,
yeah,
where will the lights take you? To the Bigfoot or to the Dogman?
I
To the
hope
fork-
neither.
To the fork in the road? What should you do? You see a fork in the road, Taylor. Do you take the left one or the right one? What do you do with the fork? You should say, I take the fork in the road, yes.
I take the fork in the road. I prefer it's a spoon so I can do a U-turn around
Oh, as
the
a
front of the
spoon.
spoon and go back the way I
You
came.
don't want to take both paths.
No. So, Alden Bridge, a little bit of history for you. It was built in 1884, so here's a structure that has a lot of history to it. It has been used as carrying horses, automobiles across. The bridge is named after the now abandoned community of Alton, which between 1850 and 1856, it served as the seat of Denton County. It was in constant use until 2001 when vehicle traffic was moved to an adjacent concrete steel bridge. 2001, 2 decades ago, that is still pretty up to date. If you look at it, this bridge has had a good lifespan of over 100 years of transporting, and that's 100 years of history. If you look at a building, that's 100 years of life, death. I'm sure some people have fallen off that bridge. The amount of attachment that can connect to this, it just it leaves my mind.
Especially now with the stories, you'll have teenagers going out there disrespecting his bridge. I'm dancing on your bridge, Goatman.
Well, exactly, 100%. So it blows my mind. It blows my mind. And it makes me wonder too, obviously you can't repair everything. They look at this bridge and you can't always spruce it up, parts rust and everything. So it makes me wonder if there's certain people that are aware of these things that are like, okay, we need to defer traffic away. Let this location kind of be reclaimed by nature, and we need to get people away from this hot spot.
Oh, yeah. They put it off for long enough. They thought, oh, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
There you go. So, do you have anything else you want to add on that specific Goatman?
Oh, you've covered everything very, very well. I have something for the very end, but
Okay.
do we have any more sightings of Goatman or anything?
Well, the more sightings of Goatman seem to be spread as wide as Alabama, Arkansas, California, Indiana, Kentucky, Michigan, Oregon, Texas, Washington, and even Canada. This is a cryptid that is spotted.
Oh, no, I don't want it in Canada.
No.
No. Go away, Goatman.
I don't have anything of the Goatman experiences of it being in Canada, but I just thought that was extremely interesting of how it spread that far across. So, as far as sightings go, I mentioned to you briefly offcast about this. In 1962, several hikers were murdered. This was, as per the report, a group of 12 children, 2 adults were hiking, came too close to a cave, where there was a Goatman that is presumed to have resided within. With a few survivors that have remained unidentified, they claim that a Goatman hacked its victims with an axe. This is something I found really, really mind-blowing. Again, was the axe mentioned. Okay, we have the Maryland, Beltsville Goatman that is claimed to have been seen with an axe, and here we have this group of hikers that went up and boom. Is this just a tale? I don't know. It's just something that I had found in my research, and I thought this is definitely worth reporting on. So by the time police arrived, it's reported that all that was left of the other victims were partially eaten limbs and a bloody trail that led to this cave.
Ooh, that's scary. What if it was just a dude up there in a mask or something?
It totally could be. It could be a psycho murderer.
Hey, what if he got shot or something? Wouldn't he be scared if he put on the mask and went out there with very limited vision holding an axe? He could easily get a bullet in the chest, and then the teenagers are going to run up to him and like pull off his mask and be like, "Oh, it was Bob."
Well, I mean,
all along.
you make a grand point.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for you meddling kids. You're supposed to be dead. There's a bullet in your chest.
You make a grand point because, go back to the 60s and 70s. Most people out in the bush, they're packing rifles. They won't hesitate to shoot anything that looks far different from a regular human that could threaten them. So it's just
true. I mean, I guess
spooky.
if I saw somebody running at me with a goat mask on, I wouldn't have time to process if it was a person or a cryptid. I'd be too terrified to shoot properly or straight at all.
Exactly. You wouldn't be able to do that rationale of it. Like, okay, it's got goat feet. It's covered in fur. Like, it's not wearing a mask. There's no seam of where the mask is. Like, this is a real thing. Like, and that's the spooky thing. And that obviously is what unfolded to these hikers. So, let's see here. I have, again, there's reports in wooded areas of demonic howls, mutilated, decapitated animal corpses as well. Those owners of those animals usually always paint Goatman as the culprit. Now, I found a lot of cases where dogs are the victims of Goatman, and a lot of people reported, okay, it was a Goatman that took my dog, like it took its head clean off, kind of thing. I'm sorry, this is very explicit, but I thought that was intriguing, actually. The first media reporting of a sighting that I had found was in 1957 in Prince George's County, Maryland. So, an eyewitness explains seeing a hairy horned entity that resembled a half-man, half-animal creature. And since then, obviously, we've had numerous more reports of sightings reported. Another one of these sightings, in 1963, a woman and her husband were walking throughout a wooded area in Huntington when they started to hear crackling sounds. Again, they ignored the sounds, and then moments later, the woman claims to have seen the creature, a half-man, half-goat entity that ran away once it was spotted. In 1971, in the same area of Huntington, a farmer spotted a goat-like man devouring a pig. He stated that he got close enough to confirm this was a real thing, take his word for it. And once it was noticed, or once the cryptid noticed that he was being watched, it ran off into the woods. And this is all very close within the same decade for sightings. Again,
1963, 1971.
Exactly. In 1976, the staff working at the Woodmore Country Club, which is basically a private country club. I believe it's still open today. A private country club golf course, and it's a gated community in Mitchville in Prince George County, Maryland. Again, back to the Maryland
Back
here.
in Maryland there.
So the staff working there noticed the entity standing outside their country club. When trying to shoo it away or yell at it or whatnot, the staff noticed it was a half-man, half-goat creature.
Ooh, how did they not notice that right away? Was it in a window or something and they just thought it was a goat?
Maybe they thought it was just a goat. It could have been down on all fours, and then when they started yelling at it, stand up. I mean, I
Can
would
you
think.
imagine you see a bunch of goats and all of a sudden one of them just stands up and sprints into the woods?
Yeah, that is another. I should have taken a note of that one, but that was another encounter that I had seen. I wasn't sure about its authenticity. I mean, I can't be sure about any of these authenticities,
Sprinting
but
Goatman.
there was a claim. This man was walking and he saw a whole bunch of goats, and he saw one of them stand up on its hind legs and then walk
Ew.
off. And I would not want that. That's terrifying. No, thank you.
Can you imagine? That's disgusting. I wouldn't want to see just a patch of goats and have it just walk off so casually. It could have stayed there and just stayed hidden. I wouldn't have known. That's like if you and I went out driving in the Jeep or something and we saw a bear and a bear family and some cubs, but all of a sudden one of the bears just stands up and it's actually just the carcass of a bear that falls off of a Bigfoot and it casually walks away. Please don't terrify me, Mr. Bigfoot.
The thing I wonder is, with these scenarios, why would they want to be seen? Again, what are they trying to instill? And I feel like maybe people get hesitant and think, is there some demonic thing at play here? Am I being picked to see this or witness this for some reason around that belief, Again, back to the sightings. I couldn't find any specifications as to this, but one of the last reported sightings that I was able to find was reported in 2007 of the Goatman.
That's the last reported sighting that you could find.
That's the last one.
How far back can this possibly go? I was kind of thinking about that, and then I was thinking of the different mythologies and stuff. So, the Goatman, I mean, it could appear in history as early as the Greek satyrs or the Roman fauns. Both of those go hand in hand with each other. They're described almost exactly the same. And that's forever ago. Could this be another mythological creature, perhaps, that's... maybe there's a few of them kicking around or something, or some kind of spiritual entity, because the Greek satyrs and Roman fauns were both underneath a certain god in those times, too. They could easily be demonic. There could easily be some spirits around that take these forms or something like that. But I find it interesting that they're all depicted exactly the same as Goatman, but more so with like human heads with horns, actually. I would say the satyrs and the fauns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Recorded history of Goatman describes them less with goat heads as having human heads with maybe longer ears and horns. But everything else is the same. And something interesting to note about Goatman history that actually ties right into satyrs and fauns in my research is, if you look up Goatman, one of the big things, and this is a very uncomfortable topic, and it's said that Goatman often, of course, it comes and it kills couples in parked cars and stuff like that, but there's also tales of them breaking into people's houses and raping its victims.
Yeah.
Again, that's a very explicit topic, but if you go and you look at 520 BC as like satyrs of Greek mythology and stuff, they are always depicted as very, very sexual beings. They gross, but half of the paintings and stuff on urns have them fully erect, or there's lots of imagery with sexual acts and stuff like that with these things. And when I was reading about Goatman, that kind of stood out to me, that Goatman is known for doing sexual acts, while also satyrs and fauns of mythology are known for committing a lot of sexual acts. Like, there's one huge relation there with a cryptid or a spiritual being that is still depicted the same way.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah.
gross.
Well, I mean, even that kind of thing too, that ties in with being a demonic force as well. Like that's something that I'm not a religious person myself. I don't know a lot of the specifications surrounding that, but I know committing those kinds of sins is very, very, it's horrible, it's demonic, it's a sin.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Speaking of sins, ad breaks are one of those things. It's very sinful, and I think it's time that we do another one here before we really delve into our fun topics for this episode. So we'll see you folks in however long this ad takes. Wow, I don't know how long that ad was, but it sure added up.
your transitions always get me. Like, we're getting into another topic here. Oh, it's an ad break.
Try not to be too sudden there. Earlier you had mentioned our older episode, The New Jersey Devil, and how we had talked about a similarity to Baphomet.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, again, looking into Baphomet, this is something that now I'm hoping I always have one of these pronunciations. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Eliphas Levi. Now, does that sound right?
Sure.
Okay.
We'll go with that.
You're just taking a sip of your water and it looked like you like choked. I'm like, oh, I butchered the name. Oh,
No, it's coffee.
He's laughing at me. Oh, it's coffee.
You're butchering my drink too. Stop that.
So this was the Sabbatic goat, and this is an image drawn by, again, Eliphas Levi. It was to symbolize the equilibrium of opposites, half human, half animal, male, female, good and evil. Again, Baphomet. That Baphomet is the term, again, that was associated with the Templars and many other forms of, questionable religious activities, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Well, that's really kept its ground too as being almost satanic now.
Exactly.
Every time you see imagery or something associated with the devil or rituals, the goats are a big part of it. The stars and everything with the different points on it.
100%. Now, you were asking me how I feel Baphomet is connected to this.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the resemblance of Baphomet and this depiction it's just so uncannily, so eerily similar
to how Goatman looks.
Exactly. Thank you for finishing that. I was struggling there.
You're just trying to say it looked the same, and then you started saying the same thing twice.
I know. I was getting too big with my words.
Let's just help you reword it. Yeah. Well, it's interesting to note that, I mean, Baphomet was something that different cults and sects have really grabbed onto and used imagery of for so long.
Yeah.
Because it does go back right to the Knights Templar and stuff like that, and it's like originally like a pagan idol too.
Yeah.
Not something I really want to delve too much into right now.
Well, that's something that's its own whole episode and topic in its own.
Pagan gods. Pretty soon we're just going to start bringing down different gods as cryptids. Yeah. So, with the demonic stuff there, do you believe Goatman is related to the devil at all? Because there's people out there that look at Goatman and go, oh, it's Satan.
Well, that's just it. It's hard for my position because, like I mentioned earlier with my perspective, I can kind of get more on board of it being something that it was maybe mutations, gene alterations, stuff like that. Because
and I'm the opposite. I can't picture the scientific realm having anything to do with this.
Yeah.
I can't see somebody, like I said, mixing vials, going poof, and all of a sudden they're half goat. That doesn't happen.
I'm not saying all my eggs are in that basket because, again, the amount of media I've seen where it's depicting satanic goat-related creatures and entities that are demonic, there's a part of me that 100% believes in that as well. So I'm kind of a little bit into both sides, but probably more so on the side of the science of them just working and creating horrible things. And that stems, again, from just looking into encounters of people seeing horrid things that shouldn't exist, that are part man and part something else. Or this is something that truly is spiritual. It's related. Like, again, there's so many depictions of half human, half animal things out there. Dogman, we talked about it in our last episode, the medieval wild man. There's many different, I don't want to say natural, but entities that are combined.
I think it goes back too far. Satyrs and stuff like that, they weren't scientific experiments.
Yeah, that's true. And where did they see them? They documented what they were accounting for, or it was just in general just tale.
It could have been easily their mythology, tale, romanticism and stuff that just became their art and that became a thing. Or because of their religious aspects too and the gods that they worship, they came up with their own stories here. But I think one of the final topics I'd like to close on, out of all the different cryptids and stuff, Goatman to me is almost one of the least real. I can't find any pictures, I can't find any videos that you go online and go, oh, this is somebody who had a sighting and they got evidence. No, it's, here's an artistic rendition of it, here is a Photoshop picture of a goat in the dark. There's no video footage, basically, unless it's like a tiny black dot or it's some kids on YouTube recording some stuff. I don't think Goatman is real. That's my honest opinion.
Yeah.
I think that there are demonic entities that take on appearances like Goatman, and that's most likely what some people have seen. But on that note, Taylor, if we were to go to Maryland, or if we went to the Alton Bridge or something, actually, yeah, let's use the Alton Bridge. Would you go dancing on the bridge? Would you want to make it upset and see if you could make it appear?
So you're with me in this scenario.
I'm with you. Because I'd be dancing on Goatman's bridge.
Do we have a vehicle?
Yeah, you got the Jeep or something.
We got the Jeep. Okay. Are we both dancing, or am I dancing and you're in the vehicle?
Well, stop trying to make me the bait. I mean, I very easily could be the one that's flossing on the bridge. Mm-hmm. I disrespect your bridge, Goatman.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wouldn't want to, but it's one of those instances where you'd want to provoke. You want to provoke this instance and kind of see what kind of result you can get. Again, like they do in those paranormal investigator shows, they're prompting, instigating, trying to stir the pot a little bit. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't enjoy doing it, not one bit.
I feel like it's almost an attempt at bravery, because in the realistic sense, I feel like if you're trying to draw the attention of something like this, you're not going to find it. Mm-hmm. Like when you go out in the woods and you look for a Bigfoot, you act natural, maybe make some sounds, whistle. You're more likely to have an encounter if you're not actively looking for it. Exactly. That seems to be how it always goes for reports and sightings. And the same could be said for Goatman and demonic entities like this. If you go hunting for it, unless you're really diving in there and putting your soul at risk by like using a bunch of devices and speaking to spirits or something, you're not going to find anything if you're dancing on a bridge.
Yeah. And it's almost implied like the bait aspect. You mentioned Bigfoot, calling him out. I think Goatman. I think most things in general, if you're calling it out, an intelligent force of any kind, they're going to know they're being baited. At least that's what I believe. They're going to know, like, there's 3 cameras set up. There's dudes with microphones, a net that are going to throw onto, whatever wanders out of the tree line. So I just think that, you're right. You have to encounter it accidentally, more along those lines.
I mean, the people that do go looking for it and stir the pot, they're the ones that don't come back.
Well, you make a grand point. I mean, there are those, like, we hear the encounters from the people that come back. There, and I firmly believe this, could be a whole lineup of encounters and experiences of those who don't come back. And those people that die out there, you will never know. Again, look into the 411 cases. Those are...
I was just thinking that.
Exactly. Those are cases where people, they experience something and they're never found again. And what happened? Most of the times you don't know. But yeah, goes hand in hand. You said you don't believe in the Goatman. I'm inclined to believe that I would give it like a 60% belief and like 40% probably not believing in it. And that alternates a lot. And I only say that because I 100% do probably agree with you in the front that I won't say 100. I'll say 90%.
Oh my gosh, you and your percentages.
I know.
They're always fluctuating.
I know, they're always changing. 90% would agree with you on the front of it being interpreted as a goat because it is like a demonic force. Is something very, very wrong that shouldn't exist on our plane of existence, and people just happen to see it, and that's what they interpret it as. Mm-hmm. So, hopefully, I went sideways on tangents with my word use and everything this episode. It's all the turkey. We're doing this at Canadian Thanksgiving time, so the tryptophan.
That's another topic where we'll just have to cross that bridge when we come to it.
There's the bridge pun.
It's not funny when I repeat the joke twice. But before we do start repeating stuff twice, I think it's time we say goodbye to our listeners today. Mm-hmm. And we'll wait for our next episode of Cryptid Clues.
Yeah, I have an idea in mind for what we want to do for the next episode. I'm gonna run it by you once we're done recording this one. But yeah, be sure to check us out, CryptidClues@gmail.com. If you have any experiences or anything you want to talk about, just let us know. We're open to hearing from you, and we really appreciate it. So, again, CryptidClues.ca, Cryptid Clues on Twitter, Facebook, and on Patreon. And until next time, we'll see you guys soon.
Bye-bye.